Brothers and sisters of the cards, welcome back to Nostalgianomics. In my last video, we looked at how modern sealed product had been performing in the past 90 days. However, how has vintage sealed or vintage slabs been performing in that same 90 days? Traditionally, in the stock market world, when there's times of turbulence, volatility, uncertainty, people retreat from their more speculative plays into more blue chip plays. However, does that same pattern happen in Pokemon? Are people seeing a lot of turbulence, volatility, uncertainty in the Pokemon market and starting to pull their money from a lot of the more speculative plays and put it into more of the older, rare, mint or better, the vintage sealed, the vintage slabs that are thought to be more safe plays? We're going to see today. Before I jump into this video, I have to say, I'm not going to have any bias in this video. I'm merely presenting the data and the facts. You do with this data what you see fit. You place your bets. You make your investments how you see fit. I am not going to try to push any one way. I'm just going to show you the data that I have found. Before we do that, got to give a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, Canto Shark Marketplace. Guys, Canto Shark has something for everyone. If you're a big baller, shot caller, whale, guess what? They got the big boy toys for you in the premium graded section. If you're a vintage collector, investor, guess what? They have a whole section for you for all things vintage. They have a section for all things modern for all you modern collectors. And guess what? Yes, they do have a whole Japanese section, vintage and modern, all Japanese for the Japanese collectors. And guess what? They didn't forget us, the sealed collectors and investors. Guess what? They have a whole sealed collection, modern and vintage. And there's some awesome things in there. So guess what? Make sure to check out Canto Shark Marketplace. I will have the link in the description below. Jumping into this video, what I did to not cherry pick any data, I took some of the top cards from each individual set through WotC, mid-era, further into Nintendo EX era, just to give a pretty good representation of how the market is performing. And I also took some of the vintage booster boxes, which I could find sales data on. It's hard to find sales data of a lot of these older booster boxes, but I took some of those as well. And that way you can get a representation of how things are moving. Now, look, I did take all PSA 9s. You're asking, well, Alex, why'd you do that? There's not enough PSA 10 data to compare how things were doing 90 days ago to get to now. There's just not enough sales. There's not enough data. And so I took 9s, but 9s are pretty indicative of how the overall market is moving, how the 10s move, how the raw moves. And so it'll still give you a good representation. I'm sure there's, outliers here and there, but this will give you an idea of how the market's moving. So the first up, had to take base set Charizard. That is a pretty good indicator of how vintage is doing. That is the most liquid card in the hobby. So back in July, this card was clearly going for $1,200. You can see one here, $1,299, our best offer. Here's an auction for $1,500. I think that's crazy high, but it was clearly in the $1,200 to $1,500 range back in July. However, here's the latest sale, $1,025 at auction. It just ended October 6th. That is a 20%, maybe 20+% drop in the past 90 days when we were seeing a 20, 30, 40+% increase on a lot of the XY Sun and Moon Sword and Shield sealed product. So it's definitely something to think about. Next up, I took the Jungle Jolteon first edition. Back in July, it was going for $385 at auction. Now we've seen auctions end at $316 in October, which is, again, a 20% drop in the past 90 days. I also took the Snorlax from that set because even though Jolteon's probably, one of the most popular, I think because Snorlax is actually the most higher end one. And so, again, Snorlax, July 29th, 810, August 11th, 800. And then look, you can kind of see it go down. August 13th, 760, 710. And then it goes down to 626 and 610, August 27th. And then there's a 775, but it's a best offer. So the last auction ended August 27th. So it's probably lower than 600 now. We really don't know. We haven't seen an auction in October yet or September, but I mean, that's pretty crazy how you can just see the decline over time. So again, at least 20% drop in Snorlax over these 90 days. Dragonite from Fossil, same type of thing. 525, July 28th, 525, July 28th. And then we can see 418 in September. So again, 20% drop. It's basically across the board. The same 20, 30% we saw in a lot of modern products. We're seeing that same decrease in a lot of these vintage slabs. Dark Charizard. Charizard wasn't even safe from this. 860 back in July. We have a 800 August 2nd here, best offer. But we also have, we scroll up a little bit, with 779 August, with 710. 640. So if we scroll all the way up, we can actually see, I'm going to scroll all the way up to the top. We can actually see a 510. I think that's low though. 710, 650, 689. So it's very clearly at least in the high sixes, low sevens when we did see it, and clearly in the eights. So again, 10, 15, maybe even 20% drop in Dark Charizard. Now we're gonna move into Neos, okay? Because a lot of the Neo, Shinings, and we get into like the Crystals and the, Aquapolis Sky Raids, and we get into like the Gold Stars. A lot of those are a lot more rare and can be a lot safer plays because they're not as widely available as the, early WotC stuff. So, Shining Gyarados in July, 1336, August, 1350. And then we fast forward to October, 1271, 1300. So, relatively stagnant. You could argue maybe a little down, but not much movement, but definitely no movement up. So not much down, not much up. It's a relatively safe store of value. However, when a lot of the other market, like I said, in the modern is actually moving up, the money's kind of stagnant here with this, even the Shining Gyarados, one of the, arguably one of those best looking cards in the hobby. Then we'll go look at the, this is the Aquapolis Crystal Lugia. In August, it was going for, 2,800 buy it now, 2,400 at auction. Now, same type of thing, 2,400 at auction, 2,800 there. So guys, like really just, and look, these are like in the same week they sold. So it depends on the seller, depends on the auction, depends on the card. Probably people are probably really looking at what these cards look like. So I don't think there's any really thing to draw here. It's basically the same prices, relatively stagnant, no moves up, no moves down. And so again, good store of value, not a lot of upside though. I took the Crystal Celebi from Skyridge back in August. It was going for $12.25 at auction, TCA Gaming. And if we fast forward to now, October, $12.33. No move. Literally no movement, stagnant, same exact prices. Again, you're not losing money. You're just not really gaining anything. And now we're going to look at the Charizard EX. I believe this is, Fire Red Leaf Green, the Charizard EX. So $1,300 back in August, and there was a $1,500 buy it now in September. Fast forward to today, $1,500 buy it now, $1,299 buy it now. So again, relatively no movement. Just depends on, what card, which seller. Really, kind of even across the board. Again, you're not losing anything, but you're just not seeing any growth in these as well. The Gold Star Mewtwo. So 2050 back in July, 2050, these are two different cards. Or here's one right here. 2050 back or September. So here's the thing. It's like back in July 2050, in September 2050, there's just no movement. People are still just taking offers. It's probably similarly priced. We don't know what these sold for, but no clear movements up or down. It's relatively stagnant. Gold Star Charizard, September, we have a 39.50 right here. 43.50. If we scroll down, we can kind of see it's the same type of thing. There's a $5,000 sale. This is the PSA 8. There was a 37.75. I mean, it's kind of all over the place. I don't think, we have a 37.75, 44.50 in August. Then we scroll up, the 43.50, 39.50. Again, relatively the same, maybe up a little bit, maybe, relatively stagnant. You might have made 10% depending on who you bought from. It's just, there's not a lot of movement, not a lot of sales. It's a very illiquid card. If you throw it at auction, you can really come out ahead. You can really get crushed. So, I don't know how much investment potential there is in these cards. Gold Star Mew, same type of thing. In September, 7th was 1580. That was the last auction I could find. There was just no other auctions sooner than that. So September 1580, and then we go and look at what it's going for now, 1425. So in a month, it's again down a good 10%. But again, it depends on the auction, depends on the card. Just not a lot of movement upwards. And now I'm gonna look at some of the sealed stuff. So that was pretty much everything. That was older WotC. That was the newer WotC. That was mid-era. That was going into the Gold Stars. I mean, that's a lot of the different cards. It's a pretty similar trend. A lot of the WotC stuff, it definitely trended down about 15, 20%, 20+%. A lot of the Gold Star Shinings, it was relatively even, not really up, not really down, but no real growth. The booster boxes, look, August 7th, this was selling for 16.8. August 12th, 15.5. And then as we scroll up, you can kind of see it's relatively the same. September 13th, 15.5. September 6th, 15.750. Around the same prices. No real movement up or down. Base set, unlimited. We have Jungle. So Jungle first edition, 10.3 back in July. Then 12 were best offer back in July. And then we can see now 10.5, 66. So again, no real movement. It's just kind of depending on the auction, depending on the person, 11,990, buy it now. So again, same type of stuff we were seeing back in July. It's not really any movement. However, Fossil's definitely seeing a movement down. Fossil 11,900, 12,000 back in July. Fast forward to now, unfortunately, Fossil 11,000 or best offer. One just ended at auction, 94.66. And I did look at the pictures. The box looked in good shape. It didn't have any significant damage or anything. And so, yeah, Fossil definitely is moving down about 10, 20%, depending on the sale. Last one I took was Team Rocket, because, guys, once you get into like the gyms, the Neos, and so on, you just can't find any sales data, unfortunately. But Team Rocket moved down significantly. September, you can see these were going, TCA Gaming, for both of these were going in the mid 13,000s. Now, I mean, we're seeing 12,286. 12,286, like that's a 10% drop. 10% drop in the past, 60 days or so. Guys, I mean, here's the thing. It's not that you're getting like completely crushed. The bottom isn't falling out. I do think we're actually starting to find a bottom with a lot of this vintage product. However, we're seeing significant gains, like a lot of money pouring into modern sealed product, especially in XY Sun and Moon, and now starting to see it in Sword and Shield. And so it's clear. It's not my bias. I'm not trying to tell you not to buy or collect vintage stuff. However, it's very clear that a lot of those modern products are seeing significant moves up 20, 30, 40+%, when a lot of these vintage slabs or vintage boxes are seeing stagnant times or 10, 20% moves down. So look, it's not like you're getting crushed. You're not going to lose all your money, but there's definitely better places to put your money in the market right now. So again, make your own decision, place your own bets. Maybe you could say, well, Alex, now that these are down, this is the time to buy. You buy when the market's low, you sell when it's high. Yeah, that's always an option, but we've been hearing that for the past year and a half, 2 years with a lot of this vintage stuff, and it just continues not to move, not to perform. And so again, time could change things, but for the time being, it does seem like more of those older rare mint are better, those more stable plays that people thought were gonna be better stores of value. We haven't been seeing that yet with them. So again, things could change. Make your own bets, draw your own conclusions. Hope you enjoyed the video. As always, let me know in the comments what you think. My name's Alex. This is Nostalgianomics. Be back here in a new video soon. I'm out.